spring when the washing's out, and it is out, and I'm not hiding the fact that it is. As regular viewers will know, I'm not hiding things and just showing the best bits. It's warts and all here. Another reason or sign that it's spring is that the garden waste collection has started, and don't worry, I'm not gonna start moaning about the cost of it again, but the first collection has been, and I've spent the day after the collection's been filling it back up again, so that is pretty full already. So I've got 2 weeks now before it gets collected again, but I'll keep topping it up. But I've cleared through the rest of the borders, so that's just some old foliage that's died down from last year. But away from the bins and the washing, I've got a Trachycarpus Fortunei, or actually I think it is a Nova. Now I'm relying on my memory there, which isn't the best because the label's long gone, unfortunately. So does this look like a Nova to you? Let me know. It sort of has this Fortunei bend in the leaves, in the leaflets. But I think, I don't know much about Nova other than it grows very fast. It does look like a nice slender trunk, not very thick, that trunk, when you compare it to, I know this one's a lot bigger, but it's always had a big thick trunk, this one. This is my hand as a point of reference, big thick trunk, whereas this one, although it's much smaller, you know, it's tiny in comparison, you know, so is the trunk, so it does make me feel like it's not a Trachycarpus Fortunei, and perhaps, just perhaps, my memory's correct. You never know. But what I do know is that there's a swing here, and unfortunately I planted that just before we decided to buy this climbing frame, and the swing clears the palm tree, but not by a lot, and unfortunately the kids' feet don't clear it and bang into it each time, so it's got to move. So I don't actually know where I'm going to put it yet, but I am just going to dig it up and keep it in a pot for the time being. size root ball, I think, for the size of the plant there. And the reason I put the pot down next to it beforehand was so I could try and get it the right size for the pot. I think I've done a decent job of that. We'll find out in a minute when I take the soil out. There didn't seem to be many roots that I sheared off at the sides, but there was several at the bottom. Can't really see them, but I did break through a lot of small roots at the bottom. So as you can see, you can't really see any roots there at the sides, but underneath there are plenty coming out. So it was growing healthily, but unfortunately it was the right plant in the wrong spot. So I've relocated onto the grass, and I just wanted to show you that these are the roots that I was talking about. They're the roots that are coming out the bottom. So it's doing okay. If it was grown in a pot, you'd expect to see a few more roots, I think, but as it's been in the ground, they've just been going off and in all directions doing their own thing. So now I've prepared the pot with, this is really heavy. I filled the bottom 2 or 3 inches with hardcore, really, to weigh the pot down, give it a lower centre of gravity and stop it blowing over when we get some wind. I've freshened up this compost. This was partly old compost from something that had been in the pot before. I also added some fresh compost and some a little bit of fertiliser as well mixed in there, so that should give it a good start. I think it'll be quite happy in there. So I'm quite happy with that. It was a bit of a tight fit because I got so much for a root ball, which is a good thing, but you don't really want the pots being so full. It's a bit fuller than I'd like. So I've deliberately pushed everything down to make a little ridge around the rim, a little moat, and that will, as the name moat suggests, collect the water. So if you don't leave that, if you fill it right the way up to the edge, then when you water it, all the water just runs off the surface and none of it actually goes down into the pot. So this allows for it to sink into the root mass a little bit better, but it's not ideal. So I won't be keeping it in this pot long term, but until I decide what to do with it, I think that's okay. Now what that leaves me is a bit of a hole here. So it's difficult to actually see the depth of that, but you saw the root mass that came out, so I've got to fill that in now before I put fresh bark over this whole area, really. So rather than waste bark there, I'm just going to chuck some more hardcore and bits of whatever in there to fill the volume, and then put the last few inches of bark down. There we go. I've chucked some old, stones and some old broken pots in there, and then just put a little bit of old potting compost on top. And I've left, as I said, a couple of inches for bark to go on. Now I've run out of time, so I can't do that now, but when I do that, I shall add the video here. Okay, so I have emptied the 6 60-litre bags of bark, and refreshed this area a little bit. It needs doing every year, so it's a little job I do every spring. Didn't quite get enough, I don't think. So this is the new bark. Areas like here and here, you can see where I didn't actually have any bark to put down, so looks a little bit odd just for the time being. A little bit there as well that I've missed. I probably needed another 2 bags or 3 bags to get something everywhere. This is what I bought from Asda. 60 litres, 3 for 12, so I spent 24 quid. Probably ought to spend another 12 quid to actually fill the area completely, but it's a little bit annoying really that it needs doing every year, because obviously bark decomposes and turns into compost, I suppose. But if you've got a play area like this, you need to have something. Yeah, you can't just have it as compost. There'd be mud everywhere, so it does work really well as a bark layer. Just need to keep topping it up. If we look at where the palm tree was, I mean, you'd never know, would you? So it worked quite well filling that with some hardcore and then just topping over it, going over the top couple of inches with some bark chips. So almost exactly a year ago, I took some footage of this Trachycarpus Fortunei, which I'll play in a second. And I just wanted to show you how much it had grown in a year. So let me put in the footage from last year now, and then we'll flick back to this year. So here comes last year. Remnants of a red cordyline, very damaged at winter. And this is my biggest Trachycarpus Fortunei, I'd say. And back to present day, you can see it has grown, you know, significantly, I'd say. And I do like the shape of it. It's like a big ball of Trachycarpus. But I do also like the fact that it's got developing quite a nice trunk, nice thick trunk as well. But you can't really see that from most angles because of all the leaves. So I do have a debate sometimes whether I should remove some of the lower leaves. And I am actually going to take off a couple today. So this one here is one of the oldest leaves, and it's been protecting this Washingtonia robusta over winter really well. Nice little overhead cover. So that served its purpose for this year. I'm going to remove that now, and then I'm also going to take off, there's a tatty leaf there, which is going to go, I say leaf by the way, but frond, whatever you want to call it. And that might be it. I might just remove 2 from this tree just to open it up a little bit. So I'll do that, and then I'll show you what it looks like then. Okay, so I went in with the secateurs. That's what I do with most of my small palms. I use these, but actually it became apparent quite quickly that whilst it'd be fine to cut this bit with secateurs, I like to go quite closely to the trunk where it gets really wide. So I got my loppers out, or my big secateurs, I sometimes call them, and that went through them in one go, which is what you want to try and do. So that's all fine. It's still sort of hanging on with some of these fibres, so we can just pull that off. Same there. And now you can see instantly more of the trunk, particularly from this angle, which I think looks really nice. So let me try. It won't make much difference from this angle, I don't think. Maybe a slight difference. But yeah, I'm pleased I've done that. Another thing that signifies that spring is finally here is the first mow of the season. And I mowed the lawn about a week ago, and it looks so much better. I mean, it doesn't look great, it doesn't look perfect by any means. I haven't done the edges yet, but it does look so much better than it did recently. So that's it for this week. Just a quick one. I did film a video of the greenhouse as well. I was sorting through the greenhouse, seeing what interesting plants I have in there. The footage is actually half an hour long, so I'm going to run that as a separate video, which will be up in a week or so. Then I'm also going to do a video of the whole garden, a tour of the whole garden, which I haven't done since my very first video, which was almost exactly a year ago. So that'll be coming up in 2 or 3 weeks, I guess. I just need to get everything looking good for that. For example, I need to repaint the raised beds and just give everything a tidy up. So thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are.